going to find the money, but we've got to. Right? Because she made herself completely indispensable. In other words, she acted like she already had the job. Right? If anything needed to be done, it was being done. Right? So, oh, well, Roxanne will do it. You know, she probably will. She's doing 12 other things. Oh, yeah, let's give it to Roxanne and see if she can do it. We don't want to wear her out. She's a volunteer, you know. No, Roxanne says, I'll be happy to do it. And this is where she, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, because this is where she wanted to end up anyway, and she was going back and forth between here and Unity Village, and it's like, well, what if I could just do my work here? I said, sounds good to me. And we weren't even supposed to be able to do that, so everything's worked out. Why? Because we already acted as if she had a well-paying job now. So I think that's a wonderful affirmation. Do you like the energy of it now?
Yeah, no, it feels good.
Great, I love it. There was a question over here, and then in the back, yes. And tell me your name. Say it again. Audia?
No, I just want to let her know,
Yeah.
like, for example, she can sign with AARP and go to an office to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
And AARP will pay you. Even the company is not paying you, but AARP will pay you to go over there, and you have to sign with them first. And they usually, what they do, people that are 50 or older, so if you don't have the skills or you have been for a long time without work, so they train you. So you can, again, gain back your strengths for work. And it's a very good, they pay the minimum, but they help you to find places where you can work and also get on training.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. And then, Britt, did you have one? Is it from online or from you?
No, it's from me. But it's a question. How important is it for you to believe your affirmation, or at least, because we've talked about this before, about the middle affirmations to build a bridge from where you are now to that one. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, give me an example. I do, but help me out.
Okay, let's say that she's like, oh yeah, I have a high paying job now. Yeah, right. Like, or like, oh, say, I'm a millionaire.
Right. Yeah,
now.
I think right. You have to be able to believe what it is you're saying.
Right.
And sometimes that takes a while, but you want your affirmation to be something, number one, you actually want. Like, I mean, to say, I mean $1 million would be cool, but it's like not my biggest goal at the moment, you know? So that wouldn't be my affirmation. But your affirmation needs to be something you can get your head around and you can see achieving. And like, I mean, I can certainly see you having a well-paying job now. As far as I'm concerned, it's already done. So, and that's where you were getting to in consciousness. So you work with it for a while, see how it feels. If that doesn't feel right, well, then you work with it again, right? But yes, in any affirmation, it's important to, is it believable for you? And then, remember how we talked last week? It's a thought plus a feeling that equals a manifestation. So you don't want to just say, and I'm just using yours as an example. I don't think you'll do this, but I've done it myself. So where one of the prosperity classes is you say, I am prosperous, I am prosperous, I am prosperous. You do it 100 times in the morning, 100 times at night. Well, like on number 75, I'm over it, you know, because I didn't think of it. I'm doing it because it's an assignment. But if I wrote it, like my one I shared with you last week, God is my supply, substance is mine now. Well, I loved it because I came up with it. It came from my consciousness, even though I thought I was trying to help somebody else. It was like, oh, I'm going to use that. I'm sure the other gal never even used it, but I used it. So I could believe it, and I could get my energy behind it, which is, you know, what made the difference. Yeah, that's what makes it work. So, yeah, you want to, if you're just saying, like, I am prosperous, you know, does it have some impact? It does. Because remember, thoughts are formative, but is it transformative? Probably not without the feeling. Okay, you see? So you want to work with it to a place that gets you from one place to another, and believing it is important. Even if you don't quite at first, work with it until you do. And then if that doesn't work, then you work with a new one. Right? Because it's always a process, yes. And into the microphone.
Yes. Whoa. When she was talking about saying not.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Fillmore, she used, therefore I do not inherit sickness.
She did. That's a good point. Yeah,
Have
Myrtle.
we evolved?
Say that again.
Have we evolved past?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because I think denials are fine. I think you just need to know what you're saying, because you don't want to affirm in the negative. But if you want to have a denial and an affirmation, as we talk about, denial is a bad thing, right, in our culture at this time. So what a denial used to mean, who can tell me? Greg, do you know? Roxanne, do you know? What's the definition of denial? What, say that again? That's a great way of saying it. Denying, basically it's denying condition. Condition or relative truth, right. So in other words, I used to have this friend, I was telling Regine this earlier, where she would say, she said, I do not like denials. I just don't like them. I don't like denials. I said, you just said 3 in a row, right? I don't. So one might be, let me think. Like I had this friend who was having a hard time speaking, and she was like really nervous and shaking, and she would wear these really flowy clothes to speak, but she was shaking so much her clothes were like, and it was like shaking all the way down because it was that shimmery fabric, so you could like really see the shake all the way down. And she said, I said, are you okay? You know, and she goes, well, I'm so nervous. I said, yeah, I can see that. I mean, the sweat, you know, and that. She was just having a hard time. I loved her. And I said, well, what? Are you working with it? Yes, I'm saying I'm not nervous, I'm not nervous, I'm not nervous, which is a denial. Okay, I'm not nervous. That was what was her affirmation, which is really affirming what? Yeah, what she was saying about the not, right? But then I said, well, what if you said, even though I'm nervous, I speak with poise, ease, and grace. Even though I'm nervous, okay, in other words, I'm just going to say what's happening because my body clearly is telling me what's happening. I'm saying not, and my body's shaking more to say, clue in, yes, we are nervous, just nobody told your brain yet, right? Your body is always giving you signals. So even though I'm nervous, do you see what I'm doing with that? I don't want to spend too much time on it if you guys got it, but working with your thoughts is tremendous in finding and experiencing more prosperity. Even though I'm nervous, I speak, and I can't remember, it was something like this, with poise, you know, grace and love, whatever. Poise, I think it was ease, poise, and grace, but anyway, in ease. Anyway, ease, poise, and grace, I think that's what it was. And she was like, oh, I love that. And then it really started to improve after that, because it was like she was trying to lie to herself to trick herself into not being nervous, and it doesn't work that way. Yes. Question?
How specific should you be? Let's say that you want to improve prosperity in money situations, and the other like spheres of your life are good. Should you say, like, I am prosperous in all spheres of my life and all areas of my life now, or should you really focus in on the one that you want to?
Well, I really focus in on the one that you want, because the one that changes affects everything else. That be as specific as possible. You know, like I had this friend that was affirming a Cadillac, and he just kept saying a Cadillac, a Cadillac, a Cadillac. And he got one, but it was not the color, nor the style, nor the year that he wanted. It was old, you know. He said, well, I got what I affirmed. I said, buddy, you know, let's go for a ride. Let's get some fuzzy dice for this thing, you know. This is a lesson in affirmations, you know. So, yeah, you want to be as specific as possible, just because the universe delivers, you know. Do you ever order in a catalog, like if you go online and you say, you know, I want a shirt, but I don't really care what size it is? You know what I mean? And so, you know, or then after you make the order, do you keep calling back to make sure they got it? You know, God, did you get what I wanted? No, you know, so it's a process. It's a process, and yes, you want to be as clear as possible, because any focused attention on any one area will affect every area in an amazing that you could not even imagine. We try to do too many things. Actually, if we do one thing or one area really well, it starts to break out into other areas, you know? I hope that makes sense in prosperity what I'm saying. Okay, well, was there anything else? I'm curious, did anybody download songs from the playlist? And are you working with them? They're awesome, right? Oh, was it How Can I Serve? Is that the one that wasn't there? How Can I Serve? So I have it, so I will try to record it for everybody because that's a great. That is on YouTube with Ricky Byers Beckwith. How Can I Serve? Yeah, How Can I Serve? So yeah, in the front of the book, if you're new this week, there are songs for each week that we recommend that you download. One of them was the Elvis song you heard before. It's hard to be in a bad mood when you listen to those old songs. When my family was in town, we danced around the house to them. So, okay, we've really already shared our affirmations. So let's look a little bit at the curriculum. Are you guys a little warm, or is it okay? I might be having a hot flash. Is it warm? It's warm. A little warm. Harold, do you mind just? You're not in menopause, Greg? You're not warm at all? Oh, good. Okay. All right. There is such a thing for men, you know, and I call it menopause. I don't know what anybody else calls it. Okay, let's have a few people read. I'd love to have a few people read the scriptures. So I'd love men, women, all ages to read. Who would like to read the scriptures starting on page 26? Give It Away is the beginning of part 2. Oh, Jenny back there and Chris. Chris, you got a mic first, so why don't you start? Do you mind top of the page just as much as you want to read? Orange, yeah.
Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Luke 6:38.
Great.
More?
You can? Go free.
Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Luke 6:37. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for you reap whatever you sow. Galatians 6:7.
Right. So this week is really about giving and moving energy. I called it Give It Away because we're going to talk about giving from every single level. Social. I was going to say social. No, not social. Spiritual, psychological, financial. So we'll talk about all those. Jenny, do you mind just starting where it says Give It Away? Because let me just say a word. If you weren't here last week, we read every word and then we share in partners to kind of break up the reading. But we found last week the partner share and the reading out loud helped us all hear the same material. So Jenny, go ahead with Give It Away.
Give It Away is about learning to work well within the law of cause and effect. This idea, or this law of cause and effect, is not a new one. As you see from the above scriptures, the law of cause and effect is a universal law, and when applied and used through a spiritual consciousness, miraculous results will begin to transpire. The law can be applied to the physical sense through examination and understanding of Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion. This law states, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Even quantum physics helps us understand this law.
Great. Who would like to read? Somebody? Oh, great. Michael?
25, Albert Einstein discovered that all things, when broken down to their smallest possible particle, all existed of the same stuff. The formula he used would soon change the way we view everything. You've probably seen it or heard about the formula, E = mc squared. Even though it appears that we are made up of differing energies, from the car you drive to the food you eat, there is one energy. There was another scientist named Niels Bohr who also worked with these ideas. We learned from Bohr that all energy begins as a wave, and as observed, the wave transmutes into a particle and joins with additional particles that harmonize with its frequency. So all energy is merely vibrating, joining with the same harmonious frequency to form what we perceive and as a result actually experience in the physical world. What was later discovered by scientists in the lab is that those waves, or energy, or subatomic particles, which make up everything we experience, would literally take form into whatever the scientists studying it thought it would be. In other words, the scientists had a direct impact. The waves were transmuted and appeared as particles based on the thought of the scientist who was studying it. The world you experience right now is a direct result of your thoughts and beliefs about it.
Did you guys know that before reading? I mean, to me, that is miraculous. That in the studies, that also happened. That, and I didn't want to go into big detail because there's so much in this chapter. But what also happened is some of these research situations, they would take a cell. I mean, this is like a tiny, tiny particle, and they would split it in half, and they would like have it like halfway around the world. And when there was a change in this part of the cell, it changed all the way around there as well. So what we don't see is energy. So we don't understand how powerful we are and how we're co-creators. So I mean, there's massive amounts you can read about this. I wanted to put enough in there so we had a sense of how powerful we are as co-creators. Does it make sense what the book's saying? Okay, good. Let's read a little more. Michael, do you want to read a little more? Yeah.
Sure. You are literally a co-creator with God. You are creating your reality. The reality we are creating in class this week is learning to be in the flow of life by giving it away. As you believe and think about the gifts you are giving, it will be returned to you. As you give, you align yourself with universal energy. As you give, you initiate change. You are creating a particle form from your thought wave, and more particles join with it. It is how energy works.
All right. All right. So do you see how you're calling to yourself certain things by your thoughts? Right? Because other things want to join with it. What happens when you begin to change is, and you begin to get more positive, you'll notice your friendships shift slightly. It's not like the friends were bad. They just start to shift because, oh, you know what? We don't think that way anymore. And we just naturally start to go, has it ever happened that you've been thinking about somebody and they call you? All the time, right? This happens all the time. This is an example of that energy we're talking about. All right, so you're going to share in partners now, and it doesn't have to be, I prefer if it's not the same as somebody last week, so you can get to know somebody else, and share your understanding of the concept of the law of cause and effect and how you are a co-creator with God, right? So share your concept of the law of cause and effect. Just going to be a few minutes, so, don't get verbose. Okay, you guys about done? Okay, good. Are you guys complete? 2 seconds. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, okay. Y'all have got to be done. I can't help, everybody else can't help it. Y'all did 3 or 4 people. Okay, let's look at the bottom of page 27. Did you learn anything from your partner, by the way? Always, right? Always. It's important to remember the wisdom in the room. There's always wisdom sitting before us, behind us, right? And the reason there's a lot of sharing in the group is I know I don't have the only wisdom. You know, it's part of my native way coming out. There's wisdom in the group, and let's find it so we can all grow together, right? So let's look at the bottom of page 27 where it says learning to give it away. Because we want to get into kind of the main teaching of the week, which is this. There are several forms of giving we will be working with in this class. Tithing, giving of time, forgiveness, clearing out physical space. Let's start with tithing, and I know there's always a lot of questions around tithing. So this is the top of page 28. It says tithing. Tithing moves the energy in your financial life. Tithing is discussed in many places in Scripture, but the most famous verse is Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. The word tithe actually means 1/10. Aren't you glad it doesn't mean 1/15? Who can do the math? Tithing 1/10 means that you are, I hope somebody else laughs in another church, by the way. I'm thinking, you know, you people get me, so you laugh at these things, but okay. Tithing 1/10 means that you are to give 1/10 of all you earn to the place of your spiritual feeding or inspiration. During the course of this class, your tithe is expected to come to your church. Whether you are online or in class at the church facility, at the end of each class, during the love offering time, you are expected to give. Remember that part about change? It may be a new idea for you. Do it anyway. I encourage you to tithe joyfully and willingly for 6 months. You will see results, but you have to stick with it. Move the energy with your financial giving and be prepared to receive, quote, so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it, end quote. All right. So I know there's fears about tithing, so get with a partner and share what it is. What are your fears about tithing? Share that in partners. Okay, finish up. Last minute. All right. That's enough of fear talk, okay? Yeah, I know y'all are just laughing up here. Yes? Nothing. That's true. Yeah, you don't have to make it up. Nothing funnier than the truth. That's true. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's do some Q&A about tithing. What are your questions? Or you guys got it totally figured out? No questions at all. There's usually somebody scared to ask the first one. Okay. And everybody say your name when you start, so I make sure.
Christy,
Christy.
like Christmas.
Yes. We also have a Mary spelled Merry. Did you know it? That goes to church here. You should sit beside each other. Then you would be Mary Christy.
My question is, last week when I tithed, I was like, is it just my 10% of what I make?
Right.
That was the one. And then is it just for that week? Because then I was like, whoa, I got all nervous. I'm like, am I tithing for the month, for today, or?
Right. Okay. And you know, the reason I didn't put tithing first in the curriculum is because, even though we do ask for a tithe, is because sometimes it scares people off. And even though I think it's extremely important on the spiritual path, it's not the most important in my view. Even though it's really important in my practice, and it's a foundation of my prosperity, but so is my forgiveness work, my connection with the earth. All those other things are just as important to me. So that's why I didn't put it first. But it's a great question. The question Christy asked is, and I think everybody heard it, is, do I just tithe on my 10%? Am I tithing for the month? Whatever. Well, you go, first of all, we know any good partnership in life, I don't care who the couple is, you want to at least have a discussion on the money to make sure everybody's clear what's happening. So I think it's ideal if you can, as a couple, decide to tithe together. But if you're the one making the commitment, then I think it's on your income. Okay. So, and I think you just have to decide in your family what each person has to decide what works. But I've had in many couples, because I've taught prosperity for so long, where one will start tithing and then the other one will see they start to get more prosperous and they go, wait a minute, how are you doing that? Well, remember, I know it seems weird, but as I write my tithe check, I'm actually investing in our future as a family, as a couple, whatever, because you're giving to God first. And the spirit of tithing is, I give to God first. You know, we give to the government, don't we, right off the top, right? I mean, and we don't have a choice about that. It's just taken, right? And so that's how I tithe, right? Like today, we got paid, went in last night. I was just writing my check to give tonight at class because I don't get the funds from the class. It goes to the church, right? I don't make anything or whatever. It all goes right to the church, and then, of course, all of the staff salaries, including mine, come out of that. So as you write your tithe, it's important to be clear in your coupleship, first of all, and then depending on how you're paid is how you tithe. So if you hadn't tithed and you just got paid, then yes. So you tithe on income. So people often ask, do you tithe on a gift? Like if somebody gives you a sweater or a new scarf, do you tithe on that? No, you just tithe on income. People ask, do you tithe on a tax return? I say, well, technically, you've already tithed on it. But I always tithe on my return because it feels like income. For me, if it feels like income, I tithe on it. Because for me, it's all from God anyway. So I think if I get money and it's unexpected, I tithe on it. And by the way, if you tithe, you can't believe the benefit at tax time. You feel so rich, right? You get a deduction. So, yes, tithe on your, and however you're paid. If you're paid every week, then you tithe each week at class. If you decide you want to tithe online, somebody asked me, can I tithe online? You can. Just note that it is for the prosperity class so we can keep track of what comes in for as we budget for the classes next year. That's all I would ask you to do. Does that answer your all your questions, Christy? Okay, good. Yes. Oh, hold on. Let's get you the microphone first, and then for everyone else, say your name because I got it down.
Regine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, go. Okay, I will go. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I have actually kind of two questions. At the moment, obviously, we've talked about I don't work.
Not work right now.
So I was going to go ahead and tithe, but then my son lost his job last week,
Uh-huh.
and he's got 5 kids.
Oh, boy.
And so I was, there's this much money.
Mhm.
Do I split it in half and half? Do I just give to the church and say, well, hey, and he didn't ask for anything. I mean, it's not that.
Uh-huh.
So that's question number 1. Number 2 is I was always under the impression that when you're tithing, you're giving to whatever, whether it's a person or a church or whatever, where you're getting spiritually fed.
Correct.
But then I know people that take their tithe and they do things that are somewhat involved with church, like they might help support a kid in Bible Bowl or some other thing like that. Is that considered kind of the same thing, or
All right.
should that be like an additional thing that you just decide to give?
All right. Well, that's individual, but I will tell you my rule that I follow. If it inspires me or spiritually feeds me, then that's what I give to. So if I'm particularly inspired by, so you could give a gift and you could give a gift to the same person for a completely different reason.
Right.
And so when we give to need, it's and in place of, it's like if we tithe money and say, well, somebody needs it, then it's like saying, well, God doesn't have enough to supply the need, so I have to take my spiritual money and say, I want more need. So when you take the money that's supposed to go to God and give it over here, you're saying, I really want more need. You see what I'm saying? First fruits are supposed to go to God. That's what the scriptures tell us. So then I just pray my conscience and do as I'm led. I would never presume to tell you what to do with the money, But like people say, well, if I give a gift to the Salvation Army, let's say, is that a tithe? Well, I say, does it spiritually feed you? And does it inspire you to live a better life? Well, then go for it. I'm never going to say your money has to come here, but I mean, theoretically, if you're here every single week and your kids are getting Sunday school and you're getting spiritually fed, at some point you're going to tithe here, right? So God always takes care of us. My concern is you being prosperous. Then the church is taken care of. Always. We've always been taken care of, always. We need money. I mean, I remember one time we needed payroll. A $5,000 check came in that day. It happens here so often. So the church is always taken care of. So, but you want to pray your own conscience and give to where you're receiving your food, because anytime you do, it's like you're saying, yes, I want more of this. Yes, this feeds me. I'm saying yes to God that I'm ready to receive more. So a gift out says, I'm ready to receive more, because you just open the channel. And if you start giving to need, it interrupts the flow. Or I had one person at one church who started giving to themselves. Yeah, they were. Actually, I worked at a church that gave to itself at one point, and they wondered why they had financial problems. I said, well, you're backing up your pipes, man. You're asking for money and you're paying yourself at the same time. It doesn't work. So, okay, next question. I'm sorry, go ahead and tell me your name. Jason, okay, go ahead. Sorry, which one?
Just talking in the group and they wanted me to share. Since 2012, I started tithing regularly, 10% of everything. And I was telling them, I still have the same job, I still have the same life. But somehow I have an abundant amount of money constantly coming to my life. It's incredible where the money comes from. I mean, I get people at work because I help them out, they give me money. For example, I don't know, the other day I go to the supermarket with my mom, and I don't have any need for her to be paying my grocery. And she's like, no, I'm going to pay your grocery. I'm like, okay, and something that I learned, if blessing comes into your life, never deny the blessing that is coming to your life.
Well, that's right.
So, for example, if my mom tells me she's going to pay my groceries, even though I don't need her to pay me my groceries, she want to pay my grocery and she's, insisting on paying my grocery, definitely I'm not going to let her pay for my grocery. And I mean, not to even brag, just recently I went on a European trip. I spent in Europe for about a month. Wonderful. And I came from a European trip and I still have abundance amount of money in my bank account. So I encourage everybody, if you're not tithing is amazing, and it has literally changed my life, and I will never stop tithing.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. That is a wonderful testimonial, and it's true. There's somebody who attends here, and she wanted me to mentor her, and she said, after you said yes, my first thought was, oh my God, she's going to ask me to tithe. Right? And of course, she did start tithing. I didn't ask her to, but she did start tithing right away. I'm thinking, okay, I've got to be a good spiritual student. She's going to ask me to do things, you know. And every 6 months or so, she goes, you remember when I was so scared to tithe? I have more now than I ever dreamed. And she had a well-paying job and all of that already. But the bonuses she gets at work, the ways. So it's like tithing, what this does, it opens the way to receive financially. Tithing is about your financial life. So tithing opens the way to receive financially. Does that make sense to everybody? Why is that? Well, because it says, as you give, so too shall you what? Receive. And it feels rich to give 10%. It feels rich. And that's what puts you in the mindset of abundance. Is like, I have enough that I give 10% away. Opens the way to receive. And Jason, you're right. Money comes from wherever it is, right? There's a story about this master teacher in India, and he was talking about this big project, you know. And one of his disciples said, well, Master, where are we going to get the money? He said, from wherever it is at the moment. In other words, it's going to be done. That's how we say it down south. It's going to be done. Now, I don't know where the money's coming from, but the money will be there. We know that because it was a divine idea that's come through. Okay, good. Anything else on tithing? 10%, and I always give 10%. People ask, do you give on the gross or the net? I say, do you want to be blessed a little or a lot? You know, I give on the gross. Our church, this church, tithes on our gross. So, like with the bookstore or whatever, every dime that comes in, we tithe on. 100%, we tithe 10% on everything. We don't say, well, how much do we spend on that and after expenses and all that. And when I first got here, that's how the church was tithing. Some churches, there was one church I worked with for a while. They were, what did they call it? You can't believe some of the things churches do. Forgiving their own tithe. So they would put it in the minutes that they were tithing, and then they turn around the next month and forgive it. And I said, forgive it? What? You know, I said, you mean you say you're going to tithe and then don't? And yeah, I said, well, that's, you know. So again, so how do you think the church financial life was going? Not well. So I've just seen it so many times that I know tithing works. Tithing works. Roxanne, did you have a point to make?
Money we wanted coming in.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. That's a good point. So how I've started, okay, so this is like at least 10 years ago, maybe 15, where I was really into prosperity. And what I wanted to do was be one of those prosperity gurus that like goes on those TV shows and does this. Anyways, whatever. So I was really into it, and I had my own website. What was it called? Prosperity International and all this. Anyway, and so what I started doing, I mean, the website was awesome, I'm telling you. But anyway, what I started doing was I started tithing on the income I wanted to make rather than what I was making. And in every case, my income matched it. You hear what I'm saying? And at that time, I wasn't making very much money. You know, I was making like $35,000 a year, okay? But as soon as I started tithing at 40, within 6 months, I was at 40. And then I started tithing on 50, and in about 6 months, I was at 50. That's quite an increase, right? In about a year and a half, a $15,000 raise. Then, you know, I got an unexpected inheritance, which nobody in my family has any money. That was bizarre. You know, where did somebody get $22,000? I don't know. You know, and things like that started happening over and over and over and over. So I'm just saying, money will come to you, but you have to first give in faith. You have to initiate it. Remember what I said about the energy? You start the flow, not God. God is always flowing. But we say in unity, God can do no more for you than God can do through you. So you're the channel for good. Right? So you were saying, okay, God, you know, anytime you want to bring this pile of money down, and God's saying, yep, as soon as you're ready, let's flow. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's go to the next topic. We won't get it all done unless there's any burning questions. Anybody else want to forgive their own tithes? There's the door. Okay. Okay, let's look at forgiveness. Who'd like to read a little bit? Okay, good. Tony.
This is my topic.
Yeah, good. You're working it, huh? Good.
I have, yes. Forgiveness is our next step to moving the stuck energy in our emotional and spiritual life. The word, when broken down, means to give for. The Old English of this word means to give, grant, or allow, or to give up. Would you like to release old toxic energy? Wouldn't you like to give it up? The act of forgiving is not actually for the other person, but for yourself. Forgiveness is about letting go of the past so you can move into the present. Forgiveness, as described by Eric Butterworth, is to break down the steel beam that was attaching you to the very person who hurt you. In other words, when we don't forgive, we are still attaching to the hurt. Forgiveness releases that hurt. Forgiveness is a key to freedom. Forgiveness is simple. Begin nightly to ask for forgiveness for yourself, then begin to bring people into your mind who have harmed you. Say to them, I forgive you. Write it in a journal, I forgive, name, totally and completely. Write it for as long as you need to write it. Then crumple the paper and burn it and release this person to God. Forgiveness is a key to moving energy in your emotional and spiritual life. Begin today to move this old energy out of your life.
Right, so forgiveness moves the energy. So we talked about moving the financial energy, right? Forgiveness moves the energy in your emotional and spiritual life. Right? This is great, especially if you're having issue in relationship or just wanting more fulfilling relationship. A lot of times we're holding on to old resentments from old relationships. Does that make sense? So the relationships are over, but we're still holding on to hurts, disagreements, whatever. And so the forgiveness work needs to happen so we can more fully move into our current situation or relationship, or even attract a new relationship to us, right? So, and it's not just about relationship, but you understand, I mean, it's about the emotional and spiritual life. And that usually has to do with human relationship, right? Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's romantic relationship, or it can be work relations also can be quite difficult and need our spiritual and emotional attention. Okay, who would like to read the story, personal story on page 29? Okay, great. Britt or Monica, either one. With the yellow microphone, yeah. And hold it kind of close to your mouth, that helps.
This close?
Perfect.
Okay. Personal story. I have worked with forgiveness for many years and believe very strongly in its transforming power. Forgiveness heals and transforms while moving you forward on your spiritual journey. One weekend, I was given a message on a special topic and about someone I deeply respected, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In my prayer time, I was guided that if I was to give this message, I first needed to get clear and do some forgiveness work. I did what I normally do. I got out a pen and a journal and began to journal about the ways I needed to forgive my mother. It was at that moment that I realized I needed to ask for her forgiveness and that I was to do so in person. I did a bold thing. I actually called my mother to ask for forgiveness. I was afraid to do it, and I got in the car with my cell phone and took a drive. When she answered, I almost lost the nerve, but decided to move forward, and I started with explaining why I was calling and telling her that I was sure there were things I needed to ask her for forgiveness for. Before I could finish, she said with great love, "Honey, if there is, it's already forgiven." And then she said, I am sure though that there are things you need to forgive me for." And I gave the same response. I offered my forgiveness with great love. When we ended the conversation, we were both crying, but also both felt complete. I looked up from where I had stopped the car, and the name of the store I was stopped by was called A Second Look. I was blown away. I thought, yes, a second look is what I just did. God is helping me take a second look at my assumptions and my life. Thank you, God.
Any questions about that? Anybody else need to do forgiveness work with Mama? Pretty much everybody. Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how transformative forgiveness is. And I'll tell you, since that moment, we have been so clear. I wish it for everybody. I wish it for everybody. Because, you know, of all my therapeutic work and all that was necessary, but just that act of forgiveness was so huge. And it happened because we were both ready. But I thought so many times we take the chicken way out and try to journal about it. Sometimes there's a time we need to do it in person, right? Especially when there was so much unhealed between us. It's like I couldn't get up and do something that was, you know, talking about somebody I deeply respected without dealing with my own stuff first, right? So that was the key in that. So you probably, I think everybody already knows who the forgiveness work is with. And if you don't, ask in prayer and you'll get an image, and often you'll be quite surprised. Sunday when we did the exercise, I don't know if, were you all here Sunday pretty much? Most of you were, but we did an exercise where we did, it's called cutting the cords. And I asked for people to think about, or just ask Spirit to give them the person. And somebody said, you know what, I sat through both services. In one service, I got one person to cut the cords. The second one, I got somebody I didn't even remember in my life, but then when I saw their image, the charge that was between me and the other person was so strong and so negative, I realized that was the person I needed to cut the cords with, right? So Spirit will give you the person if you don't know, and in our homework, we'll get to what the assignment is around forgiveness, but I'm going to really, really encourage you to work with it. Any questions about that? Yes.
So the person that like we did the chords with,
Yes.
like, I guess my question is, should I call that person the person that's, I guess, hurt me the most, and I ask him for forgiveness?
I would say if it's who I think, and it's because I know you, I'm going to say no.
Oh. Okay.
Here's why I'm saying that, and I know the situation. It's not. Yeah, well, no, but I'll talk to you about it more. But here's what I want to say about that. Like the situation with my mom, I was 100% ready to do it, and I was guided to do it. I didn't do it out of somebody else thinking I should forgive somebody. People who hurt me in my life, I'll give an example. People who literally abused me in my life. Everyone eventually I have forgiven, but I first made them take responsibility for what they did. And then I didn't try to forgive them. The forgiveness flowed through me. So that's where I want you to get to, where you don't have to try and you don't ask. It flows through you because it's time. Does that make sense? Right? So, yes, I'm always asking God's forgiveness, and I always get it immediately. I want you to start with God. Go with that. Just because I know a little of the situation you're probably speaking of. Yes, Pat, and then Jason. Oh, she does. Oh, I thought I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
So the other way around, what if I hurt somebody and I feel somewhat, I don't have a clear communication with this person, but I can communicate with them. Should I contact them and ask for forgiveness, or?
If you feel ready to do it, yes. If you feel it would help the other person. Like I had one person say, well, I'm going to call somebody and tell them I'm going to forgive them. I said, no. No, you got it backwards. You hear what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So if it would help them, like if I'm the one that's hurt you, let's say, I might call and say, you know what? I've been working on myself, and I realized that situation years ago. Maybe it was me, and I know it was me, in fact. I don't know if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, but I'm asking for your forgiveness for the hurt I've caused. Then I'm taking total responsibility. And then don't do it until you're prepared for what if they say, I'm not ready to forgive. So you set yourself up for that. Maybe they're not ready. Anytime I have asked forgiveness, though, I've gotten it. But it was because it was time, right? So just check in with Spirit on, is it time? And then I would trust it. Because you sound like you're really in tune with Spirit. So, okay, Pat?
Well, every year we have the burning bowl.
Yes.
And since I've been coming to church here, every year I put the same thing in.
All right.
I burn it up and walk out of the church, and I still have it with me. But this year, when I was thinking about what I was going to put in the burning bowl, I suddenly realized this person that I've been condemning all these years was something that I did.
Oh,
And I was something they did also, but I was making them the guy that needed to have the forgiveness when in actuality I was the one. Suddenly it left me.
yeah.
I no longer condemn this person. I've forgiven both of us.
Yeah.
So I put something else in the burning bowl this year.
Aha, all right. All right. Go, Pat. Well, pretty much all of our unforgiveness of others is unforgiveness of self anyway. Okay. And there are definitely situations that are difficult, especially ones that are left over from childhood, especially if we were abused or hurt in some way in a total defenselessness, right? Those are the most complicated ones. And again, I would say, don't try to rush that. A lot of ministers would say, oh, forgive, 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 and forget, forget, forget. Forgiveness is a process. The journey is a process. Don't try to do it before you're ready because Spirit's got you. Spirit is working with you. It's not like you're going to get in trouble with God if you wait. You know, it's like God knows your heart. God knows, you know what I'm saying? Wait for divine guidance as to what to do, when, and you'll be guided. You just need to stay in tune like you were, Pat. You know, it's like you kept working it, and then when your revelation come, like I was saying to JJ, it came through you then. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to try to forgive. Forgiveness was already there, and you just kind of walked into it. Right, yes. Britt and Roxanne. Either one.
What if you have a situation where someone hurt you and they are getting older and you know you're not ready to forgive them, but you know that physical time on this plane is not on your side, but you're not ready. What do you do in that case?
I would say what I do in that case is I ask God to forgive through me. I say, you know what? I can't do this right now. I know forgiveness is probably what I should be doing, but God, can you do it for me? Because I can't do it right now. I'm still too hurt. And like I was the people who hurt me and all that when I was a kid. And I'm not saying it lightly. It's just because I've worked it so much that I can talk about it. You know, when I forgave one of them, I mean, it so wasn't like, okay, I'm going to forgive him. It moved through me. It was God doing it. Alice was still mad and hurt, right? But some part of me, some divine part of me, was ready to let that through. So that's what I would do is say, God, can you do it through me? Because I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm not there. And that's being dishonest with God is not helpful. God already knows what's going on with you anyway, right? So as we say, God forgive through us, what we're saying is, I'm willing to be willing even if I can't do it. To me, that's important. The scripture just says all we need is a willing heart, right? So that's what I would suggest in that case. Okay, yes, Jenny. Sorry.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What if the person that you need to forgive is dead?
Great question. You can write has made their passing. What if the person you need to forgive is dead, has made their passing? It's great to write them a letter. Write a letter to their soul and then release it by burning it. That's a great way to do it. Write a letter to their soul. I've done it many times, and it's very cleansing and very helpful, and actually helps the soul also. Because what people, you know, in their passing, what people always want is, am I loved and am I forgiven? Those are the two things everybody wants to know in their passing. So the spirit world is really interesting. Now, I'm going to go deep on this. Stay with me. The spirit world is right here. It's not off in golden streets and all that. It's right here among us. When we do work here and now, the spirit world feels it and is transformed by it. It's like the souls stay bound to the material, waiting to get their healing. So as you do the forgiveness, and especially if it's a family member, you're literally like healing the family lineage, right? So any forgiveness work that you do, whether it's family or not, it literally helps the soul move on and helps you too. So in that case, it's like you're not bound to somebody that's not even on this plane anymore. That holds you down also. So very, very healing. I'm feeling the energy in the room even right now. Are you guys feeling a shift in the room? The spirits are saying, please forgive us. If there's anybody in your past that's made their passing, forgive us. They feel it, they hear it. It changes you, it changes them. Thank you for saying that. I support you in doing it. I support you in doing it. Okay, yes.
I wanted to say a couple things, if you don't mind. The first thing is, when we want to be forgiven by somebody, I always have to ask myself, when you said, as long as it benefits them, right? Which means that I can't go to somebody and say, hey, I really want to apologize for sleeping with your wife. Doesn't work, right? People think that well, I need to be forgiven. And so they'll go admit their sins to somebody who really doesn't need to hear it. It's not beneficial. It doesn't work for anybody, right? So that's a really good question. Then the other thing I always look out for forgiving, you mentioned in your book the thing about being held to it by a metal bar or metal beam. Emmett Fox also does a thing where he talks about when you don't forgive someone, you throw them in jail. And, you know, they may absolutely deserve to be in jail. But the problem with that is that then they need a jailer. So for as long as you keep them in jail, you have to be their jailer. And so you are with them all the time. You are tied to them continually. They're the last thing you think about when you go to sleep and the first thing you think about when you wake up. And so when I think about being ready to forgive someone, I always wonder, you know, am I ready to quit following them around? That's all.
No, excellent. Good point. All right, let's look at clearing out physical space. This is my favorite one, and it'll lighten it for everybody. By the way, the first curriculum I wrote, I had made my own word. It said clearing out physical space. I couldn't decide if it was cleaning or clearing, and so I made my own word. I think it's clearing out physical space. We're going to try that this time. Clearing out, and this is on page 30. Clearing out physical spaces moves the energy in your physical life. So far we've done financial and emotional and spiritual, right? And now we're talking about physical. This is a simple yet meaningful task. Clean out the old to make room for the new. Especially if you want more work or more money through your job, clean your workspace. Go through old emails, old papers, and dust. Have a sacred time when this is complete. Light a candle, burn some sage, say a prayer. This will help you immensely in creating a workspace you enjoy and open the energetic channels to receive. Okay, who would like to read next about relationship and that? Chris, that'd be great. So clearing out physical space is physical plane. Yeah, go ahead.
If it's a relationship you desire, clear your schedule. Make yourself available for a relationship. Don't book every minute of the day with work, friends, or classes. Have time available. Clean out area of your home. Make room for someone else. Give away things that hold old relationship energy. If you are holding on to gifts, clothes, furniture, rings, dishes, etc., all these things hold energy for you of past relationships. Open the relationship channel to receive.
Okay, great. Personal story. Who'd like to read that? Chris, all right, thank you.
Several years ago, I was in a spiritual practice of clearing out my physical space. I do this on a regular basis and have for years. I am still amazed to this day how much I give away and yet still manage to have so much. I cleaned out my clothes, shoes, etc. I was praying and working with Spirit the whole time I was cleaning out my shoes. I had never given away so much, and I had a talk with Spirit and said, I know all I need will be provided. I release all that isn't needed to the universe. Thank you, God. In a few days, I went to church and someone came up to me and said, what size shoe do you wear? Because I was going to give away some of these brand new shoes I have, and I thought of you. I was hand delivered a bag of brand new shoes that were perfectly my size. I was hooked after that, totally a believer. What we give is what we receive. We are powerful co-creators.
Can you guys believe that? The exact thing I gave away, And, you know, I should have put another story in here. I didn't because it's not my story, but this minister friend of mine, Sally Taylor, and I love Sally. She's a great manifester, too. She went through her closet and she cleaned out everything but one outfit. And at the end of the month, her closet was full and she had bought none of it. One. She went down to one outfit just to prove that it could be done. I mean, that's bold, right? That's bold, sister. Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's. So does everybody understand that? Clearing out physical space. In other words, go through it, clean it out, move it. Yeah, and it moves the energy. Okay, giving of time. Britt, go ahead.
Giving of your time is an advanced spiritual practice. As you give of yourself, you are saying you are worthy, that you have something to give. Make sure you are giving from your place of giftedness. If you love art, offer to do an art project with kids during or after church. If you like wood carving, make something for people who support you. If you enjoy helping others, ask a neighbor if you can help them with housework or yard work. This can be a wonderful gift, especially if the person is elderly or physically challenged in some way. If you love action and excitement, volunteer with kids at church. Always looking for a few good men and women. Share your spiritual journey with them. If you love food, to cook, clean, or prepare, help out in the kitchen on Sunday. Anytime you give of yourself, you are taking the focus off you. This is wonderful for your soul. It's healthy. And when you give your time, you are giving of yourself, which leaves a legacy. Your soul needs to know how much it's needed in the world. Give it away.
All right, any questions about that, about giving away? In other words, it's really, really important to find a way to give of yourself in some way. I mean, half the people in this room are volunteers here, so I know you know what I mean. I mean, the co-facilitator of our wellness team, there's Pat, Maria's given a bunch of time, JJ, I mean, so many people, Monica, so many people. So all of you, Michael just took on a project with me and more to come, so yeah, it's important to, and I hope you saw the part where it says give of your giftedness. It's like when you've been given a gift, you have a responsibility to pass it on. I have a real concern about the kids that are growing up today. They're not being taught how to do anything. They are entitled and everything is given to them in a computer. Like little boys or girls don't know how to build fires and make things out of sticks. They only know how to press buttons, right? So it's like if you have a gifted area, if you're good at sewing, if you, those old ways of being that aren't old, that are kind of coming back in now, that are kind of cool to do. It's kind of the old, new, vintage thing, like to make your own stuff. But I'm saying it's true with any area of giftedness that you have. If it's a gift you have a responsibility to teach it to the people in your life, whether it is your own kids or our kids at church or at a community center or volunteering at a school or even to another professional. Like if you're really good at what you do, try to mentor other people. It's like I'm trying to mentor other ministers right now or kids I'm saying kids. Most of them are older than me, but people coming out of school, ministerial school, they're not really teaching them in school how to be ministers. They're doing talks. Well, that's like very small part. And they're not even teaching them to do that very well. So like how to run a business, which a church is, so I'm trying to give that away. And what's happening is every time I do that, I'm expanding more into my giftedness. Because in Spirit says, oh, you've used this much, I'm going to give you more then. Right? There's a scripture that says, it's in Luke, I want to say it's Luke 12:34b, but I'm not sure. Anybody could look it up that wants to. Monica, you got your Bible? That's the book for me. Look it up. To whom much is given, much is required. If you are gifted in any area, it is your responsibility to give it away. Very, very important to do that. Because it's like you're saying to God, you know what? I'm worth this. I want to give it away. I want to do more with what you've given me, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Because a lot of us think, oh, I'm busy. We're all busy. That's such a lame excuse, right? Okay, so let's look at page 32 where it says discussion. Oh, I just discussed. Okay. Now I wasn't going to pass out a volunteer form, but if you want help figuring out a place to volunteer here at the church, any of the staff here will be happy to help you. Myself, Roxanne, Dorothy, or Britt, we'd all be happy to help you volunteer in a way. Like I'll tell you an area we need that we don't have a volunteer for. I'd love on Sunday morning right before services for somebody to come in with a little carpet sweeper and sweep up all the little things everybody brings in on their shoes right before service? Because right now I pick all that up. And I'd love to just be able to just think about the talk. I mean, that's like a little thing. Or somebody who really wants to bring fun little coffee creamers for the hospitality to make it fun for people to have flavored coffees on Sunday. You know, that's a funny thing. But like if you have extra money, that's a fun way to give. You know what I'm saying? And it's little. It doesn't take a lot of time. So think about things like that. Okay. But what I want you to do in the class is to try to at least give 2 hours of your time away each week, which is nothing, right? Most people spend 2 hours on Facebook every day. So 2 hours in a week is nothing really. We had at our church in Phoenix, it was a woman, and she taught, and her schedule was very busy. Teachers, you know, people think, oh, they have 3 months off and stuff. It's one of the hardest jobs you can do. And she was a teacher, and she like even did after-school programs. So she was at church like 10 hours a day, and at night she had family constraints and couldn't get to church. She said, but I want to volunteer. And I said, well, what do you like to do? And she said, I like to make cards. Could I make cards for you? I said, yes. If you could make handmade cards, when I send out a card to somebody in need, I would love to have a beautiful handmade thing to send out. And I mean, this woman went crazy. She must have made me 100. Well, first of all, she had this intention to make hand stamps. You know how those stamp things are, like that's a big thing now? And she went to this garage sale, and somebody was selling like hundreds of these different stamps, and they were all positive. So she would make like these collage things on these cards that were gorgeous. And I would send them to people, and they would frame the cards. Yeah, I mean, it was just like one little thing. She said, Alice, I love doing this. I can do it at home, and I'm so blessed doing it because every card is an affirmation. My heart is in every card. That's what she told me. And then everybody I sent them to felt that way receiving them. They could feel the energy of it. So that was a little thing that was just hers to do, and it was just because she loved it. I didn't even know I needed it till she told me what it was, right? So I'm just saying it can be anything. It can be anything. Another lady here made these, knitted all these hats for our homeless event, and then we sold them to raise money. I mean, she's a doctor, and she had time to like knit us some little hats or whatever. Everybody has time to do it, is all I'm saying. That's the point. And it can be anything that's special to you. Okay, so let's look at the weekly assignment, which is do the daily reading, and please, please do the reading because it is exactly on the topics we're talking about each week. And then the tithe, we've talked about that, is to give weekly during class, or as Christy asked, as you're paid, right? So some people are paid once a month, some people are paid weekly, just as you're paid. And then the forgiveness, well, I'm going to encourage you to do it each night before bed. And I just do it every night, and I just say, God, who have I left out of my heart today? I'm going to do my forgiveness work with them. And sometimes I even go to sleep doing it. It's a great way to go to sleep. And then as you wake up, clean, fresh start to the day. If you're doing a deep, big one, you need to set aside some time, right? But every night before you go to bed, forgive somebody. I forgive, let's say, my dad. I forgive my brother totally and completely. I forgive myself totally and completely. I forgive myself. Okay? So that's the way I do it. And then the clearing out, notice stuck places in your physical space and begin to clear it out. Doesn't everybody have a box or a drawer at work that's just disgusting? Maybe the whole desk. I don't know. Or the closet or right? Okay. And then giving of your time, just offer yourself as a volunteer. And for the program, it's a 2-hour-a-week minimum. Okay, well, let's do our love offering. And I do have a special, special song chosen for you tonight. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I'm not even going to tell you. Harold, remember, it's the last one on that CD. And then if you will hold, oh yes, I remember it now. This is kind of a long song. You might find yourself singing to it by the end, but you won't know who's singing it. I'll tell you that. Okay, I'm going to bless my offering tonight and bless yours too. As the ushers come forward, my offering affirmation is this: I give in love because I love to give. Will you say that with me? I give in love because I love to give. So we are grateful, we are blessed, and we give with great hearts, so willing, so joyful, knowing, God, that everything we receive is from you. I am so grateful, I am so blessed. Will you say that with me? I am so grateful, I am so blessed. Thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
around the world. Gonna let it shine all around the world. Gonna let it shine all around the world. Gonna let it shine, let it shine, shine, let it shine, let it I'm gonna let it shine. It's the light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let it shine. It's the light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. I said, Jesus, 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 let it be, yeah. I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let it shine. Jesus, Jesus, let it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Gonna let it shine, shine. Jesus, Jesus, let it to me, yeah. I'm gonna let it I'm gonna let it, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let my little light shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Shine. Yeah, let it shine. Lord, gotta let it shine. Shine. Jesus, get it to me, yeah. Lord, oh, shine. Gotta let my little light shine. Everywhere I go, yes. Lord, 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 oh, gotta let it shine. Help me, Lord. Hey, yeah. Lord, gotta let it I said, Jesus, Jesus, get it to me, to let it shine everywhere I go, all of my needs, all around the world. I gotta let it shine, shine. Gotta let it shine.
Now that was a voice right there, huh? That was Reverend Dr. Patronelle Wright of the Total Experience Gospel Choir. I worked with that piano player, Kent Stevenson. I worked with him. I was in his choir, the Pan-African Mass Choir, and that drummer, he and I went to school together. So I know a lot of people on that CD. Isn't that a fun CD? Yeah, I hope you liked it. Yeah, it was this show in Seattle called Black Nativity. So, all right, you know, we have a small group, and I feel like we've done a lot of small group work tonight. I don't feel like we need to share more in the groups because we're sharing as we go. So let's close out the evening with prayer. Does that work for everyone? It just feels like after that, let it shine. I mean, y'all were just almost beat up with it. Let it shine, right? That's what we want to remember as we leave. So thank you, God, for each soul. We see each as a blessing and each blessed. Each one is a light to this world. So we hope that they see that in themselves, because I, as the minister, and us at CCU see it in them and want the world to see it even more. Our prayers for each person to be abundantly prospered and divinely blessed. And we see that this week everyone will go forward, letting their light shine as we give away and move the energy in every aspect of life. We are grateful, we are blessed, and so it is. Amen. Bless you all, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you Sunday, I hope. Yay. Yay. Have a great week.